from Southern Maryland's weather leader. This is a JB Weather Report.
Alrighty, and good evening, I guess, at this point at 7:05. I'm forecaster John Bordash here with you to give you an update on, I guess at this point we would just call it a storm potential. But yeah, the winter weather threats that do exist as we move here into the second half of the winter. Comments are acting a little bit weird on my end, so let me pop onto my phone to make sure people can hear me before I get too underway, and I see that that is indeed the case, so I'll just keep that open down there then. All right, so let's go ahead, let's just cut right to the chase, see what's happening for those that just want a quick, JB, what's going on? And we'll talk about that, and then we will launch kind of more into an in-depth analysis piece for those that want to stick around for that. So you all should remember this graphic. I believe I posted this on Monday, that we were sitting at that level 2 watching stage to see what was going on. And you see there highlighted in red that this was not a guarantee really of anything aside from the potential of seeing some sort of winter weather impacts somewhere within the mid-Atlantic. And sure enough, I mean, that potential is, I think, being realized. What I think many Southern Maryland snow lovers will tell you is, of course, it's rain. And while I know those comments are not directed at me, it does get annoying to continuously read. But you know, that just is what it is. So yeah, let's break this down a little bit. Let's walk through things. I did not do a live yesterday, so we'll kind of recap the data that started to come into focus over the last few days and kind of where we stand now. If you had been following other outlets, I know you aren't because you all are loyal JB Weather Nation viewers, you would have seen other outlets beginning to hype up the potential of seeing some spots seeing 3 to 6 inches, other spots seeing like 12 to 18 inches in this huge gangbusters snow event. And on Monday, I yielded some caution, right? That while snow is possible, I very in-depthly for half an hour went over why I didn't think it was all that likely. At least not a big snowstorm. And this is what was posted yesterday. Kind of those winter weather odds. And these are really the odds of seeing about 2 or 3 inches of snow. You see that at this point yesterday, it looked probable that, winter weather of any form was at least going to make it to I-95, likely to near certain west of I-95. And I still think this was a good spot to start at yesterday. This is kind of where we land today and what things look like today. So I do want to see, can I increase, bada boom, there we go. So this is where we sit for right now. See a little low pressure. It's not drawn really to scale, and the direction's a little bit off, but that's okay. But I think it's more important are the colors there. My apologies for those that are colorblind, trying to read my maps over the years. But the big takeaway here is areas along I-95. Really, I-95 East, this is looking almost like all rain. Sure, there could be a quick little burst of some snowflakes at the onset, but mainly all rain. Along I-95, I-95 and west is where you will have it set at the onset marginal cold to see snow. Along I-95, I'm doubtful of accumulation. You need to get west of I-95 to start to see accumulation. But you're not going to be looking at an all-snow event until you hit the I-81 corridor. So the way that translates into a graphical version is this map, right? I-95 is in that orange, that brief mix. So snow, sleet to start, very quickly goes to rain. I would expect little accumulation. Initially, I typed no accumulation, but it's too soon to say that something is certainly not going to happen, so we'll say little accumulation. But at Reagan National, I don't really see much more than maybe 0.1 inches of snow, honestly. Now that purple zone, and it's funny, I now work in the purple zone on the PA side of the Mason-Dixon line. So, of course, this is still something that people at work are talking about, and and I live in the white shaded zone. So this is still something people around me are talking about. The purple zone, we're looking at a wintry mix. So this is going to be a decent bit of snow. I could see a couple of inches up in that region, but That region will likely mix with sleet, maybe even rain at a certain point. Areas in white, this is mainly going to be snow, maybe some sleet mixes in at some point, but that's where several inches are going to be possible. Tomorrow is when, and now we can kind of minimize the size of that. There we go. Tomorrow is when I would feel comfortable to actually start putting hardcore numbers on things. And you've seen some of the TV outlets begin to do this today. And what I see so far, like it's not crazy. I will say that the forecast up where I live here in Pennsylvania is difficult to say the least. And I'll show you some of the modeling data behind that here later on. But if you look at a Chambersburg or a Harrisburg or a York, there are cases you can make for seeing half a foot of snow or seeing very little snow for all three locations. Those same questions aren't really in play as we head south of the Mason-Dixon line, though. There really is no question of seeing like a plowable snow in DC or in Southern Maryland, or really like even Frederick, Maryland, you're going to struggle to see like a plowable snow. And I would say plowable is about like 3 or 4 inches, right? Again, we'll save the hardcore numbers for tomorrow, but this gives you like when I say a couple of inches, you have a general idea of what that means. Several inches is more than a couple of inches. Little snow accumulation is less than a couple inches, right? And those amounts of snow and rain is still, kind of a question mark. In Southern Maryland, I mean, this could definitely drop upwards of an inch of rain. And we're talking like a cold rain. Cold, but not cold enough to snow, right? So we're talking like a 40-degree rain in Southern Maryland. No bueno. That's kind of where things sit. And as I take a look at the comments that at least are popping up on my phone, I don't really see that many, which is reaffirming that this seems like a straightforward forecast. What I do want to kind of take some time to dive into is kind of what this pattern is looking like as a whole. So I want to bring it on over. I think this is what we said worked best the last time. See if we can't just zoom in. Wrong way. Let's kind of try to zoom in here a little bit. Bada boom. Oh, no. Bada boom. Can we? No. Okay, that's fine. All right, so this is kind of generally where things sit. I don't know. Do we see this worked better? I think that kind of works a little bit better. Where things sit. So where Southern Maryland sits and kind of just Maryland as a whole on this map is kind of like right in here. Do we see that? Like within that purple, let's erase that and let's just do a circle. See, where does Southern Maryland sit as I try to play this through? And even that, yeah. We're still getting back into the hang of things. Bada boom. There we go. So there is Maryland. Let's go ahead and play this through. This is our American model. So you can see we have a storm system that actually passes just to our south as we head through the day tomorrow. And this, at one point, it really caught my attention that this could have been a decent snowmaker. Take a look at its track. I mean, it's tracking off the southeast coast, south of the Carolinas. Had this bad boy been allowed to nudge north a little bit, and it's funny what we have going on right now. With this system, which is actually part of the reason this forecast has changed so drastically. We have energy right here. Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. So we have energy right here off the coast. We also have like energy right here, cold air. A better way to kind of try to visualize this, and it's not necessarily the best to do it this way, X, right? So this up here is your cold, the X down below is your storm. Had these been allowed to like kind of merge together, right, they would have combined, bombed, and that would have been a decent snowstorm for our region. And it's a southern sliding storm. This had the potential to be a good snow for us, but it's not. It just meanestly goes out to sea. You then see this bad boy back out here. This is going to be the storm that we are tracking. Here's our high pressure that develops and gives us that shot of cold air for Friday. Friday is going to be chilly. But we track this. You see that initial low pressure up here in Texas kind of falls apart, redevelops along the Gulf Coast, and game, set, match here. Low pressure down to the south, bringing up all of that moisture. And then a high pressure to the north, diving down cold air, right? So where you can get these puppies to combine, this is where we start to see the potential of winter weather. We have seen some changes here with this. Our low pressure system does not look to be as strong as it once modeled. which means it doesn't look to have as much precip, and that cold air does not look to have as much of a staying power. I will zoom in here to the northeast view because this gives us a little bit more of an in-depth look. So this would be Saturday, just after lunchtime. You can see our low pressure is right down here. There's Maryland, right, or southern Maryland. High pressure to the north, trying to dive in all that cold air. What we see with low pressure systems, though, they will drag in moisture, but that moisture is typically warm, right? So you have warm, moist air bumping up against cold, dry air. Typically, the cold will overwin, but right along that track, the warm air wins out, and you see southern Maryland starts immediately with rain via the American model. That low pressure passes off the coast. You can kind of see where we start to see some of those like heavier snows right on the other side of that rain snow line. So for my York, PA followers, you know that is encouraging. This then heads out to sea. This is a very quick hitting event, though, and I want to show you just still the amount of uncertainty that exists with this forecast. Let me show you. My weather weenies aren't going to like this. So this would be our North America model for about the same time frame. Here goes tomorrow's system that at one point looked like a decent snow event. But take a look at what happens, right? So we see our system out here trying to get its act together to develop some snow. Okay, we have our storm down to the south, high to the north, but it completely, like, almost fizzles this to very little, if anything, up into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Like, the difference between what that looks like versus something like this that goes to this, like, that's just different. Which I think continues to tell you the different possibilities that remain at play. I do see Stephanie, sorry that I'm looking down, that Stephanie's asking, is there a chance that this could change? 100%. I want to say our Canadian model, we have all the different types of models. Make sure I am, there we go. Canadian model brings nice little decent system to the north, and bada bing, that's a much more, I mean, this is a stronger storm. This is a storm that drops much more heavy snow kind of along this range. It still gives all rain to southern Maryland. So I think this forecast I would not say is locked in at this point, but I would not, I mean, you might see some flakes in southern Maryland, but like we're talking like not accumulating flakes that would then go to sleet. At this point, that seems like the boom potential. Right, so let me show you our European model, and I want to use my 12Z run. Just to kind of play things out here for you, here's what our most trusted European model looks like. It has that low pressure, which again was so close. Like, honestly, had this slowed down by about 6 hours and had ticked up a little further to the north, boy, this would have been a nice, like, potentially double-digit snowfall. Ugh, can't win them all, though. That slides out to sea, cold air. We see here we go, low pressure to the south. So the initial setup is the same, high to the north, driving in cold air. What will win out? Plot twist, it's going to be warm air. As this plays through, though, we can see that rain-snow line starts to develop. As our low pressure strengthens, moves out to sea, and high pressure drives in that cold air for areas west of I-95. See if I can't just get my Maryland look. Let me just try to go this way and load my European back up. Bada boop. So European model here. Yeah, I mean, even this kind of starts us off as rain. Our pinks down here would represent freezing rain and ice, which is definitely a concern for portions of, like, the southern Shenandoah Valley. This model, I mean, look, it gets that rain-snow line, like, to Baltimore. This is sitting at 7 o'clock Saturday. So for those asking timing, via our European model, which is one that I would lean towards, this is 10 a.m., this is 1 p.m. Via this model. Don't take it as set in stone, but I would say anytime after lunchtime is fair game. Timing has definitely inched forward because there's very little stopping the system from moving. It is just jetting through. European model overnight Saturday brings that rain snow line north of Baltimore, getting closer. Frederick is right here, York, PA, Harrisburg, Philly is right there, right? Like, the thing with this system, as is the case with most systems, wherever you get that rain snow line, on the exact other side of it, this is going to be your heavy snow zone. Down here is going to be your heavy rain zone, right? Kind of looks like a peach or an apple or something. But that's kind of the way this would work out. And then this model has us getting out of here by like 4, 7, 10 o'clock in the morning. Is it possible that we have some lingering snow showers? Sure. Through Sunday morning. And when I say we, sorry, north of the Mason-Dixon line, that's possible. But this gets out of here, very little concern. What we will then turn our attention to next, let me get back to my GFS. So here's our system Sunday. It jets out of here. Take a look at this bad boy, though. We are going to have a big storm system develop. This is Monday. High pressure to the north. Right, the high pressure wants to drive in cold air, while the low pressure is bringing a crap ton of moisture. And this system is huge. This system has precip from South Dakota to like Tampa, Florida. This is a big boy. Watch as this tracks here. This system, as is the case, but looks to be the case right now, tracks right through the Great Lakes. The question I have, and this is actually rather interesting, this high to the north that's going to drive in cold air is actually in a really good spot, and it is a really strong high. Good spot for snow lovers. This does not look like a snowstorm for me to southern Maryland. However, I could see the potential of a wintry mix. Maybe this would be Tuesday morning. And you can see if we can zoom in here. Northeast U.S. This starts it off as a little wintry mix out towards the Shenandoah Valley, but very quickly brings a lot of areas over to rain. But I mean, PA followers, something to look at. But boy, is that a lot of rain. This could very easily Tuesday going into Wednesday morning be 2 to 3 inches of rain. What I want you to notice though, and I don't know if we can quite easily see it. If I zoom in here a little bit, this map just got very cluttered. To give you some spatial awareness, U.S. East Coast, bada boom, bada boom. Maryland sits right here, okay? Canada, if we just outline the U.S., bada boom, roughly, you all know my freestyle mapping abilities, okay? So our low pressure would sit bada bing, all the way out here. That low pressure is strong, high pressure to the north. Do we see these black lines in between that are quite close together? That represents pressure, and all that means for you all is this tells me that not only is this going to be heavy rain, this is going to be exceptionally windy. I could see wind gusts with this 30 to 50 miles per hour, prolonged. Like 30 to 50 mile an hour gusts over a substantial amount of time. So, yeah, what would have, again, this could have, had this tracked, at this point we're talking about 500 miles south and east, and sure, things could change. This would have been another big system. What this does tell me, though, let me just bring this back over here to kind of clear things up. We are in a very active storm track season right now. Like, we are seeing storms and rain and let's just start there. We're seeing rain what feels like every 3 or 4 days. Like, we're going to have some showers tomorrow with the storm that passes to our south. And then we're going to have a storm on Saturday and Sunday. Another storm Tuesday into Wednesday. A storm behind that for later that week into the next weekend. This is the pattern that we're getting into where we have lots of storms. We just lack the cold right now. I think that cold arrives by the end of January going into February, typical peak of the snow season here in southern Maryland and for much of the mid-Atlantic. So this tells me, and these systems we're seeing, they're not just bringing here's some rain showers. They're bringing an inch worth of rain, and typically we would say an inch of liquid would represent 10 inches of snow. So if we can keep this this pattern consecutively up, where we see 1 inch rain events every 3 or 4 days, and we start to see cold air, that 1 inch just goes to 10 inches. I'm not saying we're going to see 10 inches of snow every 3 or 4 days, but you can see the potential that we have at play here. We're kind of playing with fire a little bit. Right now, you could say we're lucking out and not seeing any snow. It is not going to take much, though, for one of these to hit. I would not ever guarantee big snow or a blizzard as a seasonal long-term outlook. It would not surprise me, though, if we see one of those by the end of January going into February. Y'all. Those 2010 blizzards, it was literally this, but shifted 500 miles south and east. That's literally what this was. So, again, to us, 500 miles seems massive. In the atmospheric sense of thinking, it's not that much to overcome. So that's where we sit. Yeah. If we were to generally try to discuss bada boom, bada bing, areas I would be concerned about seeing some sort of accumulation, that's kind of zoomed out into our region. I would imagine our 1 inch line probably does something bada boop like that. See that 1 inch? Kind of looks like a 1 inch. 1 inch. I wouldn't say that we start getting into a plowable snow likely until you get towards this region. Now, I will say this purple zone or pink zone is where I would expect the heaviest snows to be, relatively speaking. Again, not a blizzard. I think the max with this storm that anyone would see north and west of DC, I don't see anyone get really more than an 8 inch amount. Again, I don't like throwing numbers around this early, but I did see Mike Thomas, one of my buddies over at Fox 5, he put out his snow map, and I'm not, I don't hate it. Makes sense. Granted, I would probably undercut that a little bit, but it's kind of where we sit. So, no snow for Southern Maryland right now. Snow is possible, though, up where I live here in PA. And I don't know if our Southern Maryland followers are aware of this, but JB weather is definitely becoming much more of a regional thing, where we have more regional followers from across the state and now really across the Mid-Atlantic, as I live in PA and work up here, right? So you are going to see many more maps throughout the rest of the winter season that look like this, that are like this scale, right? Because now we have followers in Southern PA and out towards Western Maryland and the Eastern Shore and much of Virginia, even down to Richmond. So that makes sense, right? So, of course, Southern Maryland will always be my home, and this is still kind of a Southern Maryland page. But, yeah, just no. I mean, I'll always try to include a Southern Maryland map, but there's nothing to include here. Sure, maybe Indian Head could see some sleet, right? But core part of Southern Maryland, it is what it is. You don't win them all, and I know it feels like we haven't won any recently, and today's the 2-year anniversary of us seeing snow. Well, it's that big snowstorm from 2022 that literally dropped 15 inches of snow in Huntingtown, where 2 days before that, I had forecasted less than an inch in Huntingtown. And I went down to Prince Frederick for I miss those weather tracking times. Because tracking rain is not fun. You all don't like rain. Y'all don't engage with the forecast as much unless it's snow. And y'all know it's true. I have numbers to back this up. Yeah. It is what it is. But that's where we currently sit. My hope is that you all have a decent evening. We'll be back tomorrow. We do know that today was my first day back in school, so updates for either right when I wake up in the morning or when I get home from work in the evening. But we'll have a first call map out. I don't know if I'll do that tomorrow morning before work or tomorrow evening after work. I'm thinking maybe morning, but we'll see. But yeah, that is en route. So I hope everybody has a decent Wednesday. Stay tuned. Get ready for the cold rain, regardless of where you sit. If you're going to see 40-degree rain or 32-degree wet snow. Saturday afternoon and evening looks messy, and it's going to be a good time just to sit inside regardless of what you see. All right, that about does it for me. Have a nice and safe one. Keep it tuned here at JB Weather for the latest information, and you can always get all the information from me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or the website jbweather.net.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.